Welcome back to the Fight Society podcast. I'm Damon Martin. He's Matt Brown. And Matt, I got the intro music right this week. I played your song, so you can't yell at me anymore.
It's about damn time.
I played Zach Wilde. You like Zach Wilde? I mean, come on.
Zach Wilde is the man. Did I tell you I seen him at Copper Mountain not too long ago?
No.
Man, he came out there and it was like a guitar festival. So, man, of all people, fucking Leroy Parnell was there. Remember him?
Yeah, I do remember him.
Like I was like, what the fuck is Leroy Parnell doing here? Well, anyway, there was a bunch of blues guitarists and a lot of guys I never heard of, some local guys, whatever. And then Zach Wilde comes out headlining. I was like, what the hell? And so there's not hardly anybody there at all. It's in the middle of the mountains, and here's Zach Wilde headlining. This hippie festival of guitar players, and man, so he's like. Actually, I did make a post on my Instagram. If you've seen, he was walking around the crowd the whole time almost fucking doing solos. Like just walking right through the crowd with his guitar. One of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life, man.
Have you met him before?
Yeah, you weren't there? Oh, no, it was Loper. Yeah. It was the first time I met Josta.
Oh, that's right. I do remember. I remember that. I do remember that. Yeah, that's right. I forgot.
Yep, and so I was sitting there, he's walking around the crowd, and he's right in front of me the whole time. But I was like, Zach, what's up, man? And he played guitar, so a little preoccupied. But he didn't open his eyes, man. He was like, closing his eyes, jamming the guitar. And I'm like, man, maybe if he notices me, he'd say, what's up, whatever. But
was he playing blues, or what was he playing?
No, he played a lot of covers because it was the Zach Sabbath, actually. So he did Little Wing, amazing cover, Little Wing, The Whipping Post, gosh, what else? Remember a couple Led Zeppelin songs, at least one. Yeah, just a lot of classic stuff.
Yeah, I saw a video recently of doing, because I've never seen Zach Sabbath. I've seen Zach Wilde, but I've never seen Zach Sabbath. I saw some live video of them doing, I think it was War Pigs, or maybe it was Children to the Grave, whatever it was, but it was fucking awesome. Like, it was a really cool performance, because, like, I just never got to see them live as Zach Sabbath. But yeah, I just saw the video, and I was like, damn, now I feel like I really want to see that, so.
Yeah, it's worth seeing, man. I think they did, what was it, Sweet Leaf, just a bunch of badass songs, man. It was a great time.
That's like Taylor Hawkins, the drummer from the Foo Fighters. He has his cover band called Chevy Metal. And
I didn't know.
Yeah, they do a bunch of cover songs. Like, anytime Foo Fighters are out playing, like, he'll try to get off dates to go play, like, little club shows. And they'll bring out, like, Joan Jett sings with them. And, like, they get, like, they get, like, really famous people to come out and sing, but they just do cover songs. Like, they don't do, like, any originals. It's all just, like, a cover band. And they just play, and sometimes, like, Dave Grohl will come in and sing. And they just, like, jam out. Like, they do, like, smaller shows, but it's, like, his side project called Chevy Metal, which I always thought was kind of funny. But same kind of thing. They just play cover songs for, like, a full show.
Yeah, that's badass, man. Now, you said you're going to a concert tomorrow. What's that?
The White Buffalo.
Oh, yeah, that's a bad dude right there, man.
Yeah, country artist.
What is the band called White Buffalo, or is it one dude?
Well, the band, it's one dude, the White Buffalo. He has a band, but his name's Jake Smith. But the band, I guess, is now called the White Buffalo. But he was started out by himself. Like, he was one guy, and he just called himself the White Buffalo. But then now he has, like, a full band, so. But he's awesome. I've seen him like 2 or 3 times. I saw him in Pittsburgh. I saw him in Cincinnati like a year and a half ago, and he's playing in Cleveland tomorrow. He's a West Coaster. He's a California guy, and he doesn't really come out to the East Coast that often. So anytime he comes out here, I always make sure and see him because, like I said, I've seen him. I think this is the 3rd time I've seen him, and it's always like random. Like every 2 years he comes out here. So he just had a new album drop. So I was like, I got to go to Cleveland to see him. So
here's what I was thinking. Maybe last year we did our album of the year. Remember this?
We did. That's right.
I was thinking maybe this year we should come up with a few albums of the year and let the people listening decide what they think. The year.
Yeah, that's good. That's
first, I nominate Taylor Swift. I nominate Taylor Swift first.
I know she's your favorite. With it. I know she's your all-time favorite. I know that you're jamming that right now. So
Well, next to my wife, she's my all-time favorite to look at. That's myself. We can edit that part out, right?
It's so funny. Like when it's always like, because like whenever I go in and do radio with Loper, our other co-host, like his wife Randy, she always likes like that like pop music, which always cracks me up because like Loper's like a rock dude, and she always loves like the pop music. So you're probably tortured with the same stuff.
Worse than Loper, probably, and maybe not so much just because of what our wives are pretty similar. We have very similar wives, but like I don't know, man. I'm just a dick. I just say I can't stand even the fucking thought of it entering my bubble, man. Like, I fucking hate it like with a passion.
I get pretty lucky because my girlfriend, she'll torture me occasionally with something like that, like some kind of like rap music, like the really like popular rap, like not like good rap, but like the popular rap. But for the most part, she listens to like 80s like hair bands, like she's into like Journey and shit. So I can dig Journey, you know, like yeah, I can deal with Journey. So like that doesn't really bother me. She does like Fall Out Boy. I took her to a Fall Out Boy show once upon a time. That was all right, you know, like I could deal with that. Like it's not my favorite band, but I can deal with Fall Out. I'd rather listen to Fall Out Boy than Taylor Swift. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, no shit, right? So, all right. So, what are you going to be your off the top of your head? We haven't put any thought into this, looked into it. What are going to be some albums that you're thinking of?
For 2017, I always get confused because I got to remember what came out in 2017. That's the problem.
That's the hard part. Well, I'll give you a couple of them that on my mind, immediately on my mind. First, Five Finger Death Punch was just recent, maybe today or yesterday. Was that recent, right? I know because the single's been out. The album just dropped. I think. Oh no, was that the? I'm just looking at it right now. This is the greatest hits album, A Decade of Destruction. So
yeah, that just dropped like last week.
Yeah, okay. So their new album still hasn't dropped, has it?
No,
well, I'll go ahead and nominate it for when it does drop before the end of the year because it's Five Finger Death Punch. So fuck everybody. Morbid Angel had one. Trivium. I know they had an album this year.
I can deal with that.
I think Metallica was this year too, right?
Yeah, I believe so. That would definitely be one of my top 3 or 4 favorites because I really like the new one of that. That was a really good album.
Can't remember if Iron Maiden's was this year or last year, but that's a really good Iron Maiden album.
I feel like it was last year, but maybe I'm wrong. But I feel like it was last year.
Yeah, I feel like you might be right. Arch Enemy. Cradle of Filth, if you're into that kind of scene. Boy, that's about all I'm coming up with here.
What else came out this year? I know the new Marilyn Manson came out. That was pretty good. In This Moment, they had a new album come out. I dig them.
Enough to nominate for...
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, not for best of the year. I'm trying to think how albums came out this year.
Dude, it's fucking the easiest one. Definitely, even though, in my opinion, was their best album, fucking Mastodon, bro.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, man. We talked about that last week.
Yeah, but now we're talking about it again. We can talk about it every week.
I'll tell you what, another one I would throw out there is the new Quicksand. Do you remember Quicksand? The hardcore band from back in the day?
Man, somebody just mentioned that to me the other day. I didn't even know they had some new shit out.
They did. It's the first album in 22 years. It's called Interiors. It's fucking awesome. Like, it's badass. Like, I listened to them and I was like, oh my god, this takes me back. Like, they were amazing. Like, one of my favorite bands back in, like, the old days is their first album in 22 years. They just put out a couple weeks ago.
Dude, okay, so the Iron Maiden was, that was 2017, was the live album for the Book of Souls. I just looked it up here. That was 2016 was the Book of Souls, and 17 is the live album. So we would count that. I also have to listen to the live and see how it is. But yeah, dude, I forgot that they even existed. You know what I mean? And someone just texted me the other day about it. So I definitely have to dig into that one, man. That's a good one.
Yeah, I like the new record by Nothing More. I like them a lot. They're pretty good. They're definitely more like radio friendly rock, but they definitely have a good sound. That was the song that if you saw the promos for UFC 218, the Let's Go to War, that's their song.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, you always got some fucking deep info.
That's theirs. A band called Royal Blood. I like their album a lot this year. Trying to think what else came out like metal wise that I really liked this year. Like, because I always get it. My problem is I don't like. Sometimes I'll like. Zeal and Ardor would be one of mine. Remember that band I told you about earlier this year?
I know who those are. Who they are?
Yeah, Zeal and Ardor would be one that I would put on there. That album is fucking amazing.
I don't know if are you into like Motionless in White?
I'm not really a big fan of them. They're all right. I mean, they're one of those bands like if they're on, I don't change the channel if that makes sense. But I'm not like rushing to listen to it either.
Yeah, and then I guess you could put down. I guess Linkin Park released an album this year. I mean, tribute to Chester.
Boy, it's so bad though. The new album is so bad. I don't know if did you hear it?
Yeah.
It's real.
I never really listened to them a whole lot, to be honest.
I actually liked Linkin Park for some of their stuff, especially like their first album. But like this last album was like I don't know what was going on. Like I got to be honest, like it just didn't do it for me. But I don't want to I don't want to kick dirt on the guy. I mean, obviously Chester Bennington passed away. It sucks and. But whatever. But yeah, definitely not my favorite Linkin Park effort, I guess you could say. But
well, I guess I'll nominate. Let's say Nickelback, Beat the Machine.
I know that's one of your all-time favorites.
Be just to piss you off.
No, I would say if we get like three apiece, if we're gonna get like three apiece, I would say Trivium would be one of mine.
Trivium for sure. That's a great fucking album, I think.
Yeah, Trivium's a really good one. I think Mastodon's one we obviously would both agree on.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think, I would nominate the new Foo Fighters record. I love the new Foo Fighters record, so that's not really metal, but I love that record.
Well, I might have to go with the Prophets of Rage. They dropped their album.
I could dig that. That's a pretty decent album.
Yeah, so
anytime I can hear Tom Morello play guitar, I'm all on board. So
what I'm saying, man. Damn, did you know Powerman 5000 released a new album actually?
Did they?
Yeah, I didn't even know they were still around either.
I was gonna say I didn't know they were still around.
Right. Cannibal Corpse, Converge, they both released new albums.
Huh.
Man.
I didn't even know Powerman 5000 was still a band.
I know, right?
I
actually knew he's been touring, actually, but yeah. And then Morbid Angel, I haven't listened to their new album yet, but I'm definitely gonna have to check that out, and that could end up being a nomination.
Yeah.
Let's see what the people say, man. Tell everybody to send in their picks, votes. Let's get it going.
I like the new Stone Sour is pretty good too. I don't know if you listened to that, but the new Stone Sour is pretty solid too.
Stone Sour, man. I'm definitely gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like Corey Taylor, man. It's weird. I think I still love Slipknot, but I don't know. Like I feel like Stone Sour's been a little more consistent recently. Like they're like top to bottom, their albums have been a little bit better. But then again, like the last Slipknot was really really good. So I don't know, but I like whatever Corey Taylor does. I seem to like. That
sounds very blasphemous towards Slipknot.
I'm just saying, like, Stone Sour's been pretty consistent. Slipknot's had some really good singles, but, like, their whole album hasn't been as strong in recent years. But I will say their last album was really strong. So
which one strong that you were referring to?
Hold on, let me look. I can't remember the names all. It's so bad. I can never remember the names of albums.
You're supposed to be the music expert here, bro. I used to work in a record store.
I'm the MMA expert. Remember, I'm the MMA encyclopedia. You got to slow down and give me all these labels.
Game of Thrones. You're the Game of Thrones fucking gangster, bro.
Yeah, that's where I go. It's the what is it? 5, the Grey Chapter, their last album. That one's really good. That one was really strong. That was the one that had the Devil and I, and that one was really strong.
See, this is why I like looking at like all the albums of the year. I just realized Rex Brown from Pantera released an album this year.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That band, Hell Yeah, like they released an album, and it's so funny. I was listening. It's so funny. So our buddy Loper, of course, who works at the big rock radio station here in Columbus, I was listening to a song at the radio station one morning, and I was like, "Oh, did Mudvayne put out a new album?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Mudvayne, like they got a new album," because I recognize that guy's voice. He's like, he's the singer of Hell Yeah now, and I had no clue. I was like, "Really?" And like,
dude, Mudvayne hasn't released an album since like 12 or 13.
No, that's what I said. I just recognized his voice. Like I heard his voice, and I was like, I didn't know he had. I didn't know he was part of Hell Yeah. Now I remember Hell Yeah when they had a different singer. But then I didn't know that they got the Mudvayne singer. So when I heard his voice, I was like, whoa, Mudvayne's back together? Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, he's singing for Hell Yeah now. And I was like, what is going on? Like, how did I miss this?
Now, here's a shocker. Again, I'm just going through all the albums of the year. Dude, just released in June, a new album by 18 Visions. I don't know if you remember them or heard of them. They're like a SoCal band, I think probably Huntington Beach, Orange County, one of those bands that they had really, really solid. It was kind of, I guess, like post-hardcore style, maybe alternative metal, like just on the verge of radio friendly. You know what I mean? Like real good grooves and really good, like sort of, man, just fucking really good, man. Like almost like All That Remains-ish, where like a lot of it could be on the radio, but then it kind of got to make a song just for the radio.
Right.
So, man, they're fucking really good, man. That's surprising.
Hold on, I do remember they did a song called Tonightless.
Okay,
I have it on my iTunes. I was like, okay, I know that name. I have 18 Visions. I have one of their songs on my iTunes.
Dude, they're a solid band. I can't believe they just came out with an album, man.
Because they did a cover. They did a cover of "Beautiful People" by Marilyn Manson a few years ago as well. And one of those, like, remember those like Punk Go '90s albums? Remember that when they like put out like, Punk Goes Pop or Punk Goes Hip Hop, and they like punk bands covering songs. They covered "Beautiful People" by Marilyn Manson. Like, I knew that name sounded familiar to me. I have like 2 of their songs on my iTunes. I don't have a whole album though, which is weird. But I had 2 songs.
Figured that would probably be one of your kind of bands. Which, on the same token, All That Remains, they came out with an album this year. So they would,
But I would not put that in my top albums.
No.
I like it. I don't love it. I like it. I don't love it.
I mean, the 3 we've already named, it's not going to compare with those. So,
if we're talking about the best, the absolute best of the year, I wouldn't put All That Remains in that list. I would say it's good. I like it, but it's not one of those where I'm like I've listened to the new Mastodon like 50 times. You know what I mean?
That's like every Mastodon album, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't get the.
But that's also the problem with Mastodon. Every time they come out with an album, I just grind it in. I'm like, dude, Mastodon's the greatest band in the world. Then a year later, I'm like, dude, I can't even listen to another Mastodon song.
You kill it. Well, it's like when I get a new album, like I can kind of get obsessive about it. Like I have to listen to it for like a week straight to really like know how much I like it. Like get to know the songs and everything like that. And Mastodon's one of those bands. I think we talked about this last week, where it's like Mastodon's one of those bands where you have to listen to it numerous times to really pick up all the levels of their albums, and same way like the new Foo Fighters record. Like the new Foo Fighters record, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, this is good. Like, it's whatever. And then I kept listening to it, and I found more things I liked about it. And that's kind of like how I am with albums. Like if I listen to it like, for a week straight, I can't get it out of my head, then I know I really like it. And I didn't have that reaction to All That Remains. I listened to it like once or twice. I was like, okay, it's good. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, it's some of them are like coffee. It kind of tastes like shit at first, and then eventually you can't start your day without it.
Yeah, except I hate coffee, so.
Yeah, like I said, because you haven't acquired the taste yet, man.
It's true. Although I did acquire a taste for beer, which didn't have for the longest time either. I used to be a whiskey guy, and then a few years ago I was like, oh no, I need to like beer. I feel it's weird that I don't like beer, and now beer is like when I go out drinking or whatever, beer is all I drink.
So did it put hair on your chest?
It did not. I did not have the hair on the chest, but
I
still.
I think your voice deepened a little bit.
It did deepen a little bit. So
your beard's a little bit thicker, fuller.
Yeah, helped out there. Did you watch the fights this weekend?
Of course. Well, kind of. Actually, I was doing a signing, so I actually had a lot more people show up than anticipated, so I was kind of watching on and off.
Were you out in L.A. or were you back in Colorado?
No, I was at a casino here in Colorado.
Okay. It was a good card. I was there in Detroit. It was a good card, man. It was a good night of fights. We split on our picks. I got Max Holloway, but you got Francis Ngannou. So
believe me, I was thinking about it the whole time about how I needed to be right.
Aldo, man, I keep telling you, stop picking him against me, man. For some reason, I just know how to pick against Aldo. I've done it 3 times now, and you've lost every one of those.
3 times now?
Yeah, I picked him again. I picked Conor, and I picked Max the first time, and I picked Max the second time.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You're right. Yeah, well, shit, man. I think I don't know if, man, Max is that good. Max is fucking that good, probably, huh? Man,
well, that's the thing that I hate about when a guy dominates a legend, like Max has done twice to Aldo. Suddenly, you get that group of people who are like, well, Aldo's fallen off. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's Max is just that good. He figured out a way to beat Jose Aldo. He did it once, and he just did it again. Like, I don't think it's that Aldo's 31. It's not like he's suddenly like an old guy or anything. You know what I mean? And Aldo looked like himself in there. He was throwing leg kicks. He was throwing power punches. He was coming after Max. Like, he didn't look like a shell of himself or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, he didn't look confident, though, was the only thing. He didn't look I didn't feel the confidence stem from. And again, I was a little bit preoccupied. I didn't get to focus on the fight, but I didn't feel that aura of confidence. Even his stare down, I thought, because he doesn't normally look at guys, whatever. He just looked a little different there, but I don't know. Maybe, and I could be looking too much into it, but I thought that just the aura didn't feel like the Aldo of old. But you can't take a damn thing away from Holloway, man. I mean, he went in there and he didn't barely get touched by Aldo, really. A couple leg kicks and maybe a punch here and there, and fucking just, man, he looked like he could beat anybody in the world for sure.
How, as a fighter, and I say this all the time as an outsider looking in, but as a fighter yourself, I mean, how much does confidence change your approach to fighting or your attitude in a fight? Because if you look at Holloway's confidence in that fight, I mean, he was dropping his hands, he's wagging his chin, he's doing a little bit of that Diaz stuff where he's like, basically he's like, come on, hit me. Like, the confidence was on, like, a whole other level. After that first round, when he took a couple of Aldo's punches, took a couple of his leg kicks, you just saw Holloway's his confidence soared, and he went back to his corner at the end of that first round and said, he's tired already, I know it. And then he just went after him. Like, how big is that in a fight? Because he just looked like he had all the confidence in the world.
Yeah, I think the confidence is sort of, what would you say, sort of a manifestation of the skills that you are employing. I mean, his skill level was already higher than Aldo's, and he felt, because he didn't walk in there like that. I mean, he walked in there confident and feeling good and looked right and everything, but I think you could tell pretty quickly Aldo was a little hesitant, especially in that first round, and Holloway's confidence grew exponentially. And I think, if I remember right, again, I wasn't able to watch really close, but it looked like Aldo may have squeezed out the second round, maybe even debatably, right? But Holloway didn't even flinch. It wasn't even like, gave Aldo no confidence. That was the best he could possibly do, and it was like a debatable round. Yeah. And it seemed like that was, and so once the skills were proven, Max, his confidence was all the way as high as it could be, and he had nothing to worry about. So that just opened his game up widely. And I'm sure he was confident before, but he was also using an intelligent game plan and sticking to what he had trained to do. I highly doubt that he went in and trained to drop his hands against Jose Aldo. So, once the skills start manifesting themselves in the cage, it just breeds more and more confidence.
Yeah. What I liked most about it was, and this is what, because I really don't think Jose Aldo has lost the step. I really don't. I mean, look what he did to Frankie Edgar. You know what I mean? That was a year ago. I mean, he beat up Frankie Edgar for 5 rounds, and Frankie Edgar is as good as they come. But the way that Max beat him, I mean, see, this is a weird correlation for me to make, but when Chris Weidman beat Anderson Silva, the confidence that he had, that I'm going to be the guy to beat Anderson Silva, and he went out there and did it. Now, that was amazing, but what Chris hadn't done at that point, he hadn't really faced the elite middleweights yet. And so when he got to those guys, he beat Machida, he beat Vitor, which, at that point, Vitor was, off the juice or whatever. But then he fought Rockhold, and he took a little tougher test. He fought Yoel Romero, a little tougher test. What I love about Max, and this is not me taking a dig at Weidman, I'm just saying that Weidman had the confidence to beat Silva, but he still hadn't fought those elite middleweights yet. The scary thing about Max Holloway is he's beaten pretty much everyone. He beat, he picked apart Ricardo Lamas. He beat Cub Swanson. You know what I mean? The guy is he beat Jeremy Stevens. And then he just went out there and, he knocked out Anthony Pettis. And he's gone out there and knocked out Jose Aldo twice. That's the scary thing about this dude, is that he didn't just get to Aldo and win. He's beaten everybody before him. The only guy left is Edgar. That's it. He's pretty much beaten everybody else.
And he never complained. He never got ahead of himself. He's never, man, what an honorable, amazing champion he's been. And even today, even now, he wasn't like that guy out there calling to fight Conor. He said, look, I'm here if you want it, and if you don't, whatever, I'll move on to the next guy. And, he's not out there begging for money fights like a lot of these guys. I mean, just the champion that you want as a champion, earned it the right way. Man, you can't say a single wrong thing about the guy right now.
Yeah, he's awesome, and I love what he said about Aldo, because I asked him about Aldo at the post-fight press conference. I said, now that you have him beating him twice, what does this do for your legacy? And instead of really talking about adding on to his legacy, he talked about how great Aldo was. He's like, they should be building statues to this guy in Brazil. That's the kind of admiration he has for Jose Aldo, which he does. Jose Aldo is one of the greatest fighters of all time. Losing twice to Max Holloway does not diminish Jose Aldo. All it does is prove how good Max Holloway is.
Right. That's it. Yeah. Yep. And, man, so him and Edgar's going to be a hell of a fight, man. I can't wait to see that one.
I love it. And that's probably one of my biggest problems with the sport is, to build one guy, you have to tear another guy down, and I hate that, because Jose Aldo is one of the greatest fighters ever. You know what I mean? That's like saying when Conor knocked him out, they said, oh, it's a lucky punch. There's no such thing as a lucky punch. He meant to hit him, he hit him, and he went down. But it doesn't mean that Aldo still is not one of the greatest ever. You know what I mean? Build up Conor or Holloway and say, great, these guys did amazing things. But why do you have to tear down Aldo at the same time? Why do you have to say, oh, his chin's been cracked, or, he's a shell of what he used to? Why? The guy's amazing. He didn't look bad in that fight. Holloway just had the perfect game plan to pick him apart.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree with you. I guess the only thing I was getting at was I thought Aldo looked a little bit hesitant. Maybe it was because of Max.
I agree with you. I agree. You're right. You're 100% right. But that's what I'm saying. But I think that was a tribute to Max, not Aldo.
Max, than to Aldo, and I think that's a great point, a great way to look at it. And I would disagree. I think we talked about before. I think there is lucky punches, whether Conor's was or not. I mean, you seen him training it backstage, so hard to call it lucky. But there's lucky punches. But regardless. Yeah, I think that's a great point, man. I think it's a great way to look at it. I mean, Holloway, he came out a little hesitant too at first, right? I mean, yeah. Maybe more safe than hesitant and feeling him out a little bit, but it seemed like everything, like the biggest issue with Aldo was that he got into a brawl with him, is what it seemed like. When he started brawling with him, I think everybody just sat back and said, "This is the worst possible thing you can do, Jose. You got to stop right now." But he ran out of options. He played his game. He played his game plan. He played his hand, right? He gave everything he had, the way that he could fight, and he said, "Fuck it, I'm throwing caution to the wind, and let's fight this guy. This is my only chance of beating him." And I think we're going to look at it as, that's a lesser chance of beating him, and he probably would have been better off knowing that too. Maybe even knew it, whatever. But that's you attribute it to Max, man. You can't take away what Max did. That's the end point there, and you're 100% right.
Yeah, I'm curious. Before we get to Francis Ngannou sending Alistair Overeem into another dimension, you're a guy, we've broken down Conor's fights a million times. I picked for Conor a number of times. You picked against Conor a number of times. But you know Conor's style very well. And we just talked about Max Holloway. Let's say, hypothetically, if those two rematch now in 2017 or 2018, and I'm going to throw out like a hypothetical, like catchweight, 150. So it's middle, you know what I mean? Max goes up 5 pounds, Conor goes down 5 pounds. They meet at 150. Who are you picking in that fight right now?
I hate I got picked against Conor again, man. You can't pick him against Holloway right now. Conor hasn't been in the MMA cage for how long now? I mean, Holloway's looked invincible for a while now. I can't find a way to give it to Conor.
Yeah, I'm with you. See, usually we disagree on Conor. I'm in the same page now. I think Max is a guy who could give Conor. He does everything that Diaz does in a way. Like he's a long rangy puncher with a great jab, good reach. You know what I mean? He's not going to be outsized by Conor. Like he's going to be one of the few guys who's not going to be giving up like that height and reach to Conor. And I think it's that confidence. His body work is insane. Look what he did to Aldo to the body. That could cripple Conor. Conor's conditioning has been a problem. We've seen that. Holloway just blasted Aldo to the body like so many times. If he does that to Conor, I mean, oh man.
Trying to remember the first fight. I fought on the card, so I didn't get to really watch it much. But I know it was a split decision. So if I just look at on paper, we have a split decision. Was it 4 years ago? I think maybe 5 years ago, whatever. But the time between now and then, if you look at what the two have been doing, Conor's been fighting occasionally. Of course, very big fights. Of course, very, very tough opponents. Winning pretty good. I mean, I guess his toughest fight was Nate Diaz, where again he gassed out and had problems. On the other hand, Max has been nothing but dominant, getting better every time we see him, and fighting top competition on a far, far more consistent basis.
Yeah, and the other thing is when you look, and I know MMA math doesn't work, so I don't want to make it seem like that, but when you look at like Conor beating Aldo with the one punch, now that's credit to him. He landed the punch, he knocked him out. That was huge. But the way that Max dismantled Aldo, I think we learned a lot more about Max. And I'm not saying that means he's going to beat Conor. I'm just saying like we've seen Max against one of the greatest of all time twice in a row, and he's dismantled him. You know what I mean? Like absolutely dismantled him. Like that's incredible to see him do that.
That's a great point where you have a guy that, again, the outskilled, out game plan, out hearted, out conditioned, out everything, one of the greatest, and then another guy that landed a hard punch, call it lucky, call it a perfect punch, whatever you want to call it. It was a one punch. We didn't get to see much. We don't know what would have happened had that punch missed, et cetera, et cetera. Because I mean, say hypothetically that punch missed, Aldo was landed a big shot. So
yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, who Lord knows what would have happened. It could be, maybe nobody be talking Conor's name right now. I don't know, but
yeah, and then Max. We talked about the conditioning. Max is a guy who's built for 5 rounds. I mean, he gets stronger as the fight goes on, and that's been a problem for Conor. Conor struggled once it's gotten past like the second and the third round. Kudos to him in the Diaz rematch when he lost that third round. He came back in the fourth, which was ridiculous because he almost got finished, and he managed to come back and win that fourth round in the rematch. But I think we both know conditioning has not been Conor's strong suit. That's not been one of his best weapons.
You're right, and honestly, the Nate Diaz that barely beat, was that a year ago maybe?
A little over a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah, versus the Holloway of today. I I think there's a difference there. I think Holloway's far higher than right now.
So if you're picking right now, Max Holloway, Conor McGregor, Matt Brown says Max Holloway wins.
Yeah, definitely. And Conor's definitely a guy you can't count out. I mean, he's got that power. He's a smart guy, very athletic guy, and just Holloway's on point, and we know what he can do. We've seen what he can do. And this was originally why I picked why I picked Jose over Conor originally, where remember I said, look, we don't know what Conor's really capable of at this level. We don't really know that he can fight guys at this level. We know what Aldo can do. We've seen him destroy top-level competition for a long time. And I think it's sort of, in some respects, the same thing now, where we don't really know where Conor's at compared to – we know where Holloway's at. We know he's at the top of his game. We know he's smashing guys. We know that he just – Aldo again. He beat Lamas. I mean, you know the names more. I mean, he's just beat one guy after another. He said Pettis and one guy after another. Pettis is probably, I think, the closest comparison to Conor style-wise. Obviously, obviously we'll find the differences there, but style-wise, you'd have to compare those probably the similar. And that doesn't add up. That doesn't add up well for Conor. Shit. While Max is out there improving, getting better at being a fighter, Conor's been getting better at being a boxer and probably a better businessman. But
and the other thing you got to throw Conor's favor is one thing that he does very well is in the lead up to the fight, his mental warfare is absolutely a weapon. I mean, I think he absolutely
phasing Max, right?
Well, no, I agree with you. I'm just saying, I think it got to Aldo. I absolutely think it got to Aldo. I think it got to Eddie Alvarez. I think the only guy he's never really gotten to was Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz didn't give a fuck, and that's why I think Nate performed better. I don't think it would get to Max, but like I said, hypothetically, I don't know. We got to see it happen, and now, 4 years ago they were on the prelims of an FS1 card in Conor's second fight, so he wasn't the Conor McGregor of now, and Max Holloway wasn't the Max Holloway of now. So we don't know what that buildup would be like. I mean, now, they're two of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. What would that buildup be like? That scrutiny, that spotlight. Conor handles it very well. Would Max react to that very well? I think he would, and I think you agree, but we just don't know until it happens.
Yeah, that's a fact. You never know, because Conor, if he's good at one thing, it's the fucking mental game, right?
Well, it's like you said with Aldo. It's like the reason why you leaned Aldo in the McGregor fight is because we hadn't seen McGregor fight that level of competition. I agree with you, and that's what I'm saying about this. Max has been in the spotlight, but he's not been in a Conor spotlight. That's a whole other animal.
And I didn't respect Conor's mental game at that point, right? That's one of the things I don't really think about when I'm breaking down or picking fights, because that shit's never really fazed me. Guys, I've had a few guys here and there talk shit. Not too bad though. Nothing like Conor, but a few guys, and I'm just like, whatever. It hasn't even crossed my mind. You know what I mean? Never. Didn't change a single thing. So I never show respect to that aspect of the game, and Conor's obviously made that a whole new man. Back to the last guy to do it as good as him was probably Ali, I guess. Name someone since then that's been as good. Maybe Duran when he fought Leonard. No other, not really in other fights, but when he fought Leonard specifically. Who else, man? Tyson, maybe.
Tyson was an intimidation factor, though. Tyson wasn't talk. He was intimidating. His punching power was his talk.
Well, I just watched the thing the other day about when they were interviewing him. It was like a YouTube clip interviewing Tyson before his fights, and he's telling the reporter, shut the fuck up, and you guys are pussies, and all these slurs and stuff. And, so that's what made me think of that. But yeah, like you said, he was a physically intimidating motherfucker against a bunch of scrubs. And then when he finally fought someone good, that wasn't intimidated. It didn't do him no good. I mean, I don't think there's anybody since Ali. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look at what Holyfield did to Tyson. Look at Lennox Lewis. I mean, when he fought the best boxers in the world, Tyson was, that's.
Yeah, he's not even top 10.
I don't even know if I put him top 20 all time heavyweight. Top 20 maybe. Top 10 absolutely not. Absolutely not top 10.
Just heavyweights, yeah, I'd give him top 20, not top 10. But
no. People always laugh at me when I tell them my favorite heavyweight boxer of like this era, like of our lifetime, was Lennox Lewis. I loved watching that dude box, man. He was like an underrated guy that nobody. No, speaking of boxing though, sorry, I don't mean to like get off topic. Are you ready for this weekend?
Dude, this is probably the most skillful fight in boxing history.
Oh my God, it's going to be so good. I'm so excited.
And I was reading some Twitter stuff about it today, and one guy made a great point, man. Rigondeaux going up 2 weight classes against arguably the pound for pound, definitely top 2 or 3 in the world right now. Everybody probably agrees in the top 3. Going up 2 weight classes against that, and if he wins, that might be the biggest upset in history. Name another time someone has went up 2 weight classes and defeated a pound-for-pound guy in his prime.
Yeah, I know Floyd went up when he fought De La Hoya, but De La Hoya wasn't the best at that time. You know what I mean? Like, he went up in weight, but he wasn't.
And he was, and it was only 1 weight class. Floyd's 7-pounder. He fought him at 154.
Yeah.
And yeah, that not even close.
No. It's funny, too. You heard Holloway over the weekend. He talked about, when he was talking about his game plan, he referenced Lomachenko. Did you hear that when he said that? He's like, he looked at Lomachenko's fights, the way he finesses guys, the way he beats guys. He said he took a little bit of that for his approach to Aldo, which I thought was really smart.
Yeah, I think that's cool, man. I really like that. I guess Lomachenko, man, he's one of those guys that makes me wonder. So there's certain guys, say, Canelo Alvarez. Like, I go watch him, or Gennady, and I'm amazed, and it makes me want to go to the gym and punch the fuck out of the punching bag. And then I watch Lomachenko, and I'm like, why did I even start training? I'm like, I don't want to go to the bag, and I don't want to go hit the bag. I don't know why I even try this shit.
Yeah. No, like, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so, it's almost like, watching Steve Vai play guitar. You're like, why do I even pick that thing up for? This is very disappointing. But yeah, this is going to be this is a gigantic fight, man, and I think it's going to getting better numbers than expected, because I think the hype has been kind of undercover, but the people that know, and that word's going to spread, man. But you know what? I'm picking Rigo for the upset here.
Are you?
I'm going with Rigo for the upset, and
wow,
and really torn on this, man. And I think he can pull it off, man.
I'm going with Lomachenko. Well, our opposite bets as always. I'm going to go with Lomachenko, but I tell you what, I think it could. I think you're right. The upset could have. Rigondeaux's really, really good. But I'm, in boxing today, like, my favorite boxers to watch, of course I love, Gennady Golovkin. I love watching him fight. And I loved watching Anthony Joshua, what he's been doing lately. Like, his fight with, Klitschko is probably one of my favorite fights of, amazing fight. So there's certain guys I like watching, but I do like watching Lomachenko. I remember watching Lomachenko on the undercard. It's actually you, I remember, because I told you I was covering Mayweather-Pacquiao. And you said, watch this kid Lomachenko. And I'd never heard of him at that point. And so I started watching him from that point on. And then, I've kind of become a fan since then. But yeah, dude's amazing. Like, he's so good. So much fun to watch. So technically good. So I'm gonna stick with Lomachenko, but I don't think you're off base thinking there could be an upset this weekend.
Well, I think the problem that Rigo has to overcome is, for one, he's not going to outsize him, right? Right. He's got to go up 2 weight classes to fight him, obviously, and that's the game plan we know can beat Lomachenko. That's how Orlando Salido beat him. of course, it was Loma's second fight. Whatever. The dude had over 400 amateur matches. He was he's a veteran.
Yeah.
So, but Salido had the right game plan and fought him very much like a pro would that wants to just win at all costs. But so Rigo can't do that to him, and Rigo's not a volume guy. But what I kind of see this fight going is similar to Mayweather and Pacquiao. Of course, so I'm putting Mayweather like Rigondeaux, Pacquiao like Lomachenko. A guy kind of coming in and trying to be offensive, but just can't seem to touch the guy because Rigo's defense is just ridiculous. And the big X factor here is we have Southpaw versus Southpaw also.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is going to throw Lomachenko off, I think, because he's not going to get a lot of those tricks off. He gets his right foot out a lot against the conventional guys and gets that angle where they have to follow him. And I don't, we're going to see a whole different type of Lomachenko here, but I think his best chance of winning is going to be the higher volume, which was the same reason that I picked Pacquiao to beat Floyd. I just thought that the volume would be too much. So I think I'm comparing these two fights here, and I'm taking Rigondeaux to be the Floyd Mayweather here.
It's funny. We placed a bet on Pacquiao Mayweather. I'm trying to remember who picked Mayweather. Was that I think that was me, wasn't it? I picked Mayweather to beat Pacquiao, didn't I?
No.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I did. So,
hey.
Did you see? I know you said you're doing a signing, but did you see the Francis Ngannou knockout?
I did see. I looked up for about 10 seconds, and it took about half of one of those seconds to see it.
Yeah, good Lord, man. Did you see the picture afterwards? Like, UFC posted the picture, like, you see Ngannou's fist in the air, and you see Overeem's head just snap back, and he's, like, already unconscious. Like, it was nasty.
What I liked was, like, all the first things I started reading on Twitter was people saying, Alistar never had a chin anyway. And I was like, dude just whacked his face into oblivion, man. Like, it's like he hit him. Like he had a kettlebell in his hand and hit him with it.
Yeah, he clubbed him, man. He clubbed him. I mean, Alistair fought, in the beginning, I think he fought what I thought was going to be his game plan when he came out and tried to clinch with him, because I thought if he takes him down, that's a big advantage for Alistair, because Alistair is underrated on the ground.
Yeah, for sure.
But then when he couldn't get him down in that first clinch, and they got separated, then he just started swinging a little bit too much. I'm like, man, that's just playing a dangerous game, because Ngannou... Here's the thing about Ngannou. Ngannou is very raw. Like, I still don't feel like he's that... it sounds insulting when I say this. He's still not that skilled of a fighter. Like, he is, but I'm saying, like, I think there's still things that he's not doing technically right, but he gets away with it because he hits with so much freaking power that he makes up for it with that, And Overeem made the mistake of getting in that one exchange, and he threw that punch, and he missed it, and Ngannou just fucking clubbed him and knocked him out. You cannot play that game with that dude.
Yeah, I hear you. At Dwayne's today, I went to Dwayne Ludwig's gym, and he kind of went over the combo, how everything played out, and he did a really good breakdown. I'm hoping I was thinking maybe talking to him about kind of doing a breakdown on YouTube or something. Like man, it made a lot of sense when you see the way he broke it down. Dwayne's obviously a very good mind in the sport, and we might have to make this happen. Dude,
that guy's a mastermind. That guy knows his shit.
Yeah, and like you said, but ultimately, Ngannou is just a freak athlete, man. And this guy touches you like he could just flick you with his finger, and he's gonna pop your head, man. You're gonna be knocked out. So,
you know what Ngannou reminds me of a little bit is like the early days, like the early UFC career of Robbie Lawler, when Robbie Lawler was so much power at 170, when he used to just sleep dudes. You know what I mean? He put one punch and you're just done. And then he lost a couple times. Like he got beat by Nick Diaz and he lost a few fights and he went to middleweight, whatever. Then when he came back to the UFC, he had gained so much knowledge and so much experience, and he was so much better. And obviously, you fought him, you know what he's all about. That's what Ngannou reminds me of, except at heavyweight it's a little different because heavyweight is so much power packed behind a punch that, you just flick a guy, like you said, you just touch a guy and he goes down. But I'm wondering, will the skill level catch up to Ngannou by the time he faces someone like Stipe? Because I think Stipe, because everyone immediately after the fight, we're all prisoners of the moment, I get it. But immediately after the fight, everyone's like, Ngannou's going to kill Stipe, he's going to knock out Stipe. And I was like, Stipe, no offense to Ngannou and no offense to Overeem, is a different animal. He's not going to go in there and just start swinging, sledgehammers with Ngannou.
No, you're right on, man. And that's why we fight, right? That's what we got to see these two fight, man. There's no other fight to make, man. But I got Stipe in that fight for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I think Stipe has more weapons. I think Stipe hits very hard. He may not hit as hard on paper as Ngannou, but when you look at the punches he knocks people out with, I mean, he sleeps people too. I mean, look what he did to Verdum backing up. Verdum's chasing him. He just backed up and unloaded and knocked Verdum out cold. Then you add in Stipe's wrestling. You add in Stipe's conditioning, which is something we have no idea. Can Ngannou go past, the first round? Like when a guy's really pressing him? But the thing I love about this fight is because we do have that kind of Tyson-esque guy in Ngannou with this just incredible power, a lot of hype. You know what I mean? Like I said this today, or I said it yesterday. This, to me, reminds me of when Cain Velasquez fought Junior Dos Santos, the first time. When Cain was looked like, he just come off beating Lesnar, looked unbeatable, and then you had, Dos Santos out there kind of knocking everybody else out, and when they fought, it was a big deal. They ended up having, three fights total, and Cain ended up, unfortunately for Junior, kind of wiped him off the mat in those second two fights. But that's what it feels like. We got the champion, the established guy in Stipe, and you got this young, hungry, Tyson-esque guy in Francis, and it feels like this feels like the first really big heavyweight fight we've had since then, in my opinion.
Man, I think you're right on, and the thing I think Stipe has just over Ngannou, and the reason I'm picking him is just the fundamentals, man. He's got better jab, better straight punches, and you put those things together, and a champion, a hard-hitting guy, like you said, like Stipe, I got us to go with him. So, yeah, but we look forward to seeing that fight. That's the one to watch, man, right there.
How good would this division be if we could get Cain Velasquez back healthy? I mean, I know that's like the biggest if in the history of the sport because nobody's career in recent memory has been wrecked more by injuries than that guy. But, I mean, could you imagine if you get to throw Cain back in the mix, like a healthy Cain Velasquez?
What is he doing, man? What's the problem here?
He's still recovering from that neck surgery. He says he's going to come back next year. But, I mean, healthy Cain Velasquez is like non-stone Nick Diaz. Like, they just don't go together, Like, you don't put those two words together. Like, it's like saying, a non-high Nick Diaz. Like, you don't see that. Like, a healthy Cain Velasquez, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's sad, huh, man? I don't know what he needs, man, but I hope that whatever he needs, he gets and comes back. Because I think that him and Stipe are the two greatest in history.
Yeah, well, somebody brought this up to me on Twitter yesterday when I put that tweet out about Stipe and Ngannou, and they said, remember a couple years ago when Cain was on his run and John Jones had just kind of come up, and do you remember when they did that face-off, like 3-4 years ago? They did like a fake face-off, like somebody's like, could you guys face off? Like, and they did like a fake face-off at it was like a press conference or something, and like, I always go back to that picture of like one of those great fights we never got to see, we'll probably never get to see because, Cain is injured and John is maybe facing a 2 or 4 year suspension. But, I mean, that's one of those fights we never got to see, and it kind of bums me out because that was at a time when, Cain was on a run, John was on a run, and, man, I just think about the kind of prospect of what we're, man, because I was getting hyped up for John Jones and Stipe, and now I don't think that'll ever happen either, but thankfully, we got Ngannou coming up, and it looks like that's going to be a fun fight, so.
Yeah, who knows what'll ever happen with John Jones, man. But, man, what a crazy fucking sport, man. Changes every day, it seems like, huh?
Dude, it's crazy. Like, it's like, I've had this conversation about John before. We've had this conversation about John numerous times. Like, greatest fighter of all time, but two drug suspensions. I'm sorry, you're not the greatest of all time anymore. Like, I love Anderson Silva, but he's had his second one too. It's like, dude, like, I'm sorry. It just, it's like finding out your favorite singer was lip syncing. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to find out that you went to a concert to see, Zakk Wylde, and you find out that somebody else was playing guitar for him. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to find that's heartbreaking. Like, that's what it is for me. Like, I don't want to find out that, Anderson and John Jones have cheated. That's why I put Demetrius Johnson, George St. Pierre, guys like that above them, because they're doing the same kind of things, but they're doing it the right way.
And I think I gotta agree right with you. I think the next potential, Max Holloway for one. I think TJ Dillashaw might end up being one. Especially, man, this fight with Mighty Mouse, I think, is going to happen. And, man, what a great fight that is. Gosh, who else is even potential up there? I mean, those two are probably the top on the list, I think.
Well, and I know no one's going to put him in the same category because, obviously he doesn't have the title defenses yet. But I'm telling you right now, man, like, Stipe, if he beats Ngannou, he's broken the record for all-time heavyweight defenses, which is 3, which is ridiculous to think that, no one in heavyweight history has done it. But if he can beat Ngannou, win a couple more, get to like 5 or 6 defenses at heavyweight, which has never been done before, I'd have to, you have to start putting him in that conversation.
Absolutely, and that's a long ways off. Is the reason why I didn't really mention him yet. And I already have him as him and Kane as the best heavyweights of all time. And really, you got to go with Kane. I mean, you got to go with Stipe at this point. Unfortunately, I think Kane had the potential to, and just hasn't got there yet. But maybe
his body failed him. I mean, that's just all there is to it.
I think Kane. I think is more like my favorite heavyweight of all time to watch. I just love a heavyweight that's got cardio like that and just pushes a fucking pace and just beats guys from, like Holloway style, just little by little and guys just drowning and just start going under and the breathing gets too taxed. And man, it's just a beautiful thing to watch.
What the scariest thing about Kane was, I remember when I first met Kane, and this is going back like 8-9 years ago. I think it was after like his first or second fight in the UFC. I ran into him at a fighter hotel at an event, and I saw him, and I was like, that's Cain Velasquez. Like, he is a small guy. Like, he is not, when you think heavyweight, your immediate thought is Shane Carwin, Brock Lesnar, like these big, hulking, big-ass dudes. He's not. Like, if I saw Cain Velasquez anywhere and I didn't know him at all, I would not think he's a heavyweight fighter. You know what I mean? And he just goes out there and fucking mauls people. Like, the way he handled Brock Lesnar, as big and strong as Brock was, like, he just ragdolled him. You know what I mean? Like, that dude it was incredible to see what Kane, at the peak of Kane's performances, those 2 fights with Dos Santos, after he lost the first one, I mean, the way he beat up Dos Santos, I was just like, oh my God. Like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, just a thing of beauty, man. Like, just beautiful violence, brother. I mean, some people don't call that beautiful. I do. That shit was...
Kane would beat people, like, when he beat... I was at the third fight in Dallas when they kind of put the, or Houston, whatever it was, when they kind of, ended the rivalry. And by, like, that 4th round when he finished Junior, like, there was a moment there where I was like... I felt bad for Junior at that point. I'm like, dude, he's just, like... He's taking years off your life. Like, because, the one-punch knockout is scary. The Ngannou power is scary. I get that. But Kane doing it to you for fucking 20 minutes straight, and you just feel helpless. You know what I mean? Like, that's such a disempowering feeling. You know what I mean? Like, you can say I got caught with a punch and I got knocked out. It is what it is. But when that guy just dismantles you for 20 straight minutes, I mean... That's why I always wanted to see Kane and Stipe, because Stipe is one of those rare guys who had, real good conditioning for a heavyweight. He had wrestling, he had power, he had boxing. Like, he seemed like the perfect animal to tackle a Cain Velasquez, and unfortunately, I just don't know that we'll ever see it.
Yeah, and it's so difficult when it's so horrible when you're, guys just beating the shit out of you like that, and you trying all your tricks and everything you've trained in the gym, and your mind is feeling good at first, and maybe you get a little something here. He just stops everything.
Yep.
And you're just getting punched every time you even think about doing something. And then it goes for 10 minutes and then 15 and then 20. And you're just, man, it must be so tough.
Yeah, I imagine it's a pretty disempowering feeling. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, what do? You know what I mean? Like, what can I do? You know what I mean? Like, at that point, it's like, man, those are. I had this conversation with DJ Dillashaw 2 weeks ago, and I talked about the Cody fight, and I said, could you imagine a more perfect ending than, knocking him out? That's kind of, you're putting the stamp on the fight. You kind of put the exclamation point. He's like, you know what? In a weird way, I would have rather beat his ass for 5 rounds just to prove, there's no question that I was the better fighter. I could show off everything. I could just beat his ass for 5 rounds. And I hear that argument a lot. Like, some people, obviously you love getting a knockout, you love getting a quick win, but there is something to be said about just breaking a guy over 5 rounds, and by the end of it, he's just got nothing left. Like, you've drained every last bit of, like, will out of him.
Yeah, me and TJ were actually talking about this not too long ago, and the fact is, we train. That's what we train to do. We train to, we think of all these worst case scenarios in our head, and we're prepared to go through hell, and we're not afraid of that, and we pump it up, and we train for like 10 rounds. The fight's 5 rounds, but we're training. Our bodies can go 10 rounds, and then we get in there, and it turns out to be pretty easy, and it's like a round.
Yeah.
We want to push our body to the limit. We want to test everything we got. We want to see what we're capable of, and it's no better feeling when you're getting in those deep waters and you're testing what you're capable of. He's testing what he's capable of, and you come to find that you're capable of more because you put in that work. No better feeling in the world.
How torn down the middle are you going to be if TJ ends up fighting Demetrius? Are you going to just be like sitting there like as a fan? Because I know it's going to be a tough one, because you used to train with Demetrius out in Washington, obviously, and then I know TJ's one of your guys now. That's going to be a tough one for you.
Yeah, I won't be cheering for either, to be honest. But the fact is, man, I'm going to enjoy that because it's that's the Rigo Lomachenko fight of MMA. I mean, those are the two of the best pound for pound guys in the world. Certainly, DJ has proven himself to be the top pound for pound guy in MMA right now. TJ is probably 2 or 3, right? I don't know. Yeah. I haven't really looked at the rankings lately, but he's certainly got to be in the top 3 or 4. I mean, what better fight is there to make, man? I mean, what a great fight. What just a high skill level fight. I know what they're both capable of. I just be excited to see it, like you said, just as a fan, man, and just as a martial artist more than a fan. Just a martial arts fucking master show out there.
Yeah, the only fight I think that could rival that in the UFC, and it would be a different fight, obviously, because I think what TJ and DJ do are so different in terms of like their skill. But I think if John Jones had stayed healthy and not cheated, whatever, him and Stipe would have been that to me. Like those two, like the greatest, arguably the greatest of all time in John Jones. Taking away the drug stuff. Against Stipe, maybe the greatest heavyweight of all time. Those two clashing, I would have been so freaking excited for that. And on a skill level, I understand it's different. Like I said, it's it's like comparing apples and oranges when you talk about right. I don't know, like a great heavyweight boxing match, like Anthony Joshua against a prime Lennox Lewis, or whatever. Different style fights than what you're going to get out of Lomachenko and Rigondeaux. But that's what I'm saying. Like that's the only other fight that could have happened where I think skill for skill would have been a really interesting fight and a really exciting matchup.
I was going to say Anderson versus Jones, or Anderson versus GSP.
In his prime.
Yeah, of course in his prime. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. But no, but I mean, but of today. I'm saying like of today.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And I would even say, I was talking kind of all time, I guess, and I would even say the Anderson versus GSP, as great as the two of them are, we know exactly what GSP would be looking to do. Yeah. And of course, if he does it, I would pick him to probably do that. I think most probably would.
Yeah. It would be, like I said, Dana says we're going to get it. We're going to get TJ and DJ. That's one of those fights that you better appreciate. You know what I mean? You better tune in, you better watch, because that's going to be one of those fights for the ages. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of those fights you do not want to miss.
Absolutely. And to be honest, as good a friends I am with both of them, I would lean towards TJ based on the size solely. Skill level, I think they're very similar levels in terms of skill, but DJ's biggest problem, Mighty Mouse's biggest problem, is his size, man. I mean, he's not even a big guy for 125.
No, he's not.
I mean, he's outsized by 125 pounders, and TJ is a very good size for his weight, and that's, he cuts it well, and he takes care of himself and does the right things, but he's the proper size.
Yeah, well, what I love most about it, and I said this when they first talked about the fight coming together, was the thing I love most about it is it would be the first time, in my opinion, since DJ fought Joseph the second time, Joseph Benavidez, when I didn't automatically just pick Demetrius. You know what I mean? Like, every fight since then, I've just been like, well, John Dodson hits hard, but Demetrius is going to win. Or, this guy's got this, but Demetrius is going to, I've not picked against Demetrius since the Joseph Benavidez rematch, which obviously he won with a first-round knockout, but that was the last time I can remember going into a fight thinking, I don't know that DJ's going to win. This would be the time when I would say, I don't know that DJ's going to win. Like, I'm with you. I would probably lean TJ. But that's kind of what you want, right? Like, you don't want to just go into a fight knowing the guy's going to win. Like, there's no fun in that. Like, Rigondeaux Lomachenko, like when Lomachenko had his last fight, when he was like a minus 1,400 favorite, yes, you still enjoy watching the guy go out there and do his work, because it's fun to watch a great do his work. But when you know the guy is just completely outclassed, it takes something away from the fight. This weekend, however, you're seeing two of the very best in the sport about to go at it, and that's what makes it great, because you, as you said, you're picking Rigondeaux to win. Like, that's what you're not, you know what I mean? Like, you're thinking that Rigondeaux has a chance to beat Lomachenko. You want a guy to face a guy that you think could beat him. You don't want him just face, guys he's going to beat.
And to be clear, I'm admitting that's a big upset call that I'm taking there. Lomachenko is the bigger guy, the more active guy, maybe the harder hitting guy. Certainly at that weight, he's going to be the harder hitting guy. So I understand Rigo has a big mountain to climb, but the reason I guess that I'm picking Rigondeaux is this is his one chance for a big fight. There's nobody else out there that he gets a big fight with. He's not an exciting guy. There's not a lot of stars around his weight. He's not going to get bigger. He's already, I think he's 39 years old, I think. I want to say.
He's older.
Yeah. He doesn't have another chance for a big fight. This is his chance to be a truly one of the greats.
Yeah. But that's what, even as an upset, even as you're saying it's an upset, you still see things he can do to beat him. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have not had that feeling with Demetrius in 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, there's not been a single fight where I've been like, well, I could see this guy pulling off the upset. No, I just, he's so good that I don't see it. But against TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of DJ's fights, and you kind of, I try to hit up Matt Hume every time, get in some work, learn some new things, some new magic from the Wizard, and hang out with DJ a little bit, and I'm kind of looking like, is there any kinks here? Like, does this guy even have a chance? And then I'm thinking like, well, even if it was a kink, like, your arm's not broke and your jaw's not already broken, you're not limping because your ACL is torn. So even if it was that, I'd still be like, yeah, DJ's probably still gonna win.
DJ's just another animal. Like I said, that's the guy who's earned his spot as being the best pound for pound fighter in the sport. But that's why you want to see him fight a TJ Dillashaw, because that would be another guy who's one of the best pound for pound guys in the sport.
Absolutely, I'm totally with you, bro. Totally with you on that.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up things this week. We got some fights coming up this weekend. I know we had to kind of recap everything that happened at 218. Cub Swanson's fighting this weekend. That's a fun fight with Brian Ortega. Got that fight coming up this weekend. Alexis Davis dropping down to 125. So we'll talk about that stuff coming up next week. And then we got next weekend, dude, we got Robbie Lawler Dos Anjos to talk about.
Hella good fights happen in the UFC, man. I'm surprised this year hasn't been a good year for him. I don't know why, man. It's great fights.
Hell yeah, dude. That last weekend, man, you had Gaethje and Alvarez, you had Yancy Medeiros and Alex Oliveira, some great fights. You had Holloway. So we'll talk about Cub and stuff next week after the aftermath, and we'll do a little preview of Lawler and Dos Anjos, because that's right in your wheelhouse, obviously. It's your division. So we'll talk more about that next week. And then we'll do this Album of the Year competition. We'll put out a tweet, and we'll have you guys, what are we going to put out a poll? We'll put out a poll on your Twitter, and we'll have these guys vote on the Album of the Year.
Sounds like a plan, bro.
All right, guys, we're going to be out of here. Make sure you follow Matt at IamTheImmortal. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Damon Martin. Make sure you follow our Facebook page. It's Fight Society Podcast on Facebook. And then make sure you check us out on iTunes. Just search Fight Society on there. And we will see you guys next week for more Fight Society Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.